Today, I stole a streamer and Minecraft roleplayer and made him sit down with me and answer my questions.
Hi, that's me. I'm Rexxipher.
You may or may not have heard of Rexxipher, but you probably know his very popular series like Sword Art MMO, Mythos SMP and Aluneara. Okay, fine, there's also Freakshow. So, yeah, let's hop right into the interview. Also, please subscribe. Hi, how are you doing, Rexxipher? Big fan, by the way.
I'm doing good. I took a nap today. I woke up at some point, and now I'm here. And so far, this has been my itinerary.
Real quick, I mentioned in the intro, but we gotta talk about Sword Art MMO and Aluneara. I think those are the shortest series that you have done, with Sword Art only getting 4 videos and Aluneara barely getting 6.
Yeah, that's true. I was running my own projects at the time, which was Mythos and Skyline, and they were operating very well. And then as offshoots, I had a couple of friends that decided that they were putting together their projects. And that's what became Samo and Aluneara.
This was kind of a crazy time for your channel because you had a lot going on. You were doing Mythos SMP, and then Skyline was happening on the side, and then out of nowhere, you did an episode for Aluneara, and then a trailer for Echoes of Arcadia would soon follow after, along with a random episode of Sword Arts, all within the same 3 months.
During that time, a lot of my content that I was producing was almost exclusively live stream content, so while it's still very narrative and story based, done through a kind of live improv format with the very occasional cinematic. In regards to Mythos and Skyline, it was more easy for me to keep in control of those series and stay on top of them versus Aluneara and Samo, which ended up as short as you observed, primarily because the people running those projects eventually just weren't able to maintain or keep up with the workload and burden that was, running their own project that was heavily story based.
I think one of the most impressive things was just the scale of how you were operating. You were live streaming almost every day, doing all these series and storylines. I mean, looking back to the Mythos SMP, it was mostly you having fun on a server with a lot of chaos, but there were some cool moments of cinematics and actual good storytelling, especially towards the end.
We were at a rhythm where we were putting out a stream every few days. There were days where we'd finish it, and then that night, I would come up with what would happen the next live stream, and we'd spend the next couple of days making the sets for it, and then by the time the third day would come, we'd put it out. There were occasional live streams that were took a bunch of work, such as our dungeons or our big climaxes for arcs, where we took a week or two in order to get those ready. For the most part, the average Mythos episode, we were doing them as soon as we had them ready, and we were working non-stop on it. And in between that, yeah, I was streaming anything and everything that I could, whether it was just goof off Minecraft, or if it was Roblox, or just other games that were trending at the time that I could play with a group of people.
Does a part of you actually prefer being a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber? Because you actually first got your start off on Twitch, right?
Initially, I was a heavy Twitch streamer. In fact, I almost exclusively streamed on Twitch. I didn't even have an active YouTube channel, and it was like that for, I would say, the greater part of a year. It wasn't until I was very deep into it and into Mythos where I was hey, it might be helpful to actually have my VODs somewhere people could watch. I definitely do a lot more work on my YouTube channel than I do Twitch streaming now. In part, that is possibly because YouTube has proven to be way more successful in finding outreach and producing higher quality content. I still like them both. I like doing Twitch mainly now as just a way to be able to connect with my audience and kind of letting loose and having fun.
Really happy you stuck around. You've definitely made such a big impact. It's really cool to see how much you've progressed over these past few years, especially with your other talents like voice acting. How did you get your start with it? Did it all start with Casting Call Club? I saw your first submission was actually sent on January of 2019, which is only a month after you made the Rexxipher channel.
Initially, I got into theater and drama around 8th grade, 9th grade. I don't know what it is about acting and performing that's always had some kind of allure to me. I read a lot of books as a kid. I always liked stories. Were kind of more adventure based. I liked Percy Jackson. I liked Harry Potter. Being able to be a part of the story, a protagonist in a story or a leading character was always something that I wanted. And that eventually led me to voice acting, where I was already doing performances in real life and practicing my acting ability. And then shortly after that, I started working on getting voice acting portfolios set up because I was already online. And I realized that indie projects like Ruby, fan dubs for webtoons and things like that. And I wanted to try to get my foot in the door for that, to kind of live out that dream I had of being a protagonist in a series. Then around that time, I spent I think $20 to $40 on I want to say it was a newer NW700 was the specific model of mic.
Oh, I had that growing up too.
Yeah, it's a $20 mic, maybe $25. 2018 technically is when I started auditions, and I was auditioning to pretty much every project that I could, most of which went not very far. There are some I still think fondly of.
And all because of the NW microphone. Man, that's crazy. We all start somewhere, huh? Speaking of your old equipment, how did you feel when you replaced your old chair? I remember in a charity livestream you did, you showed off a library chair that you used for a long time. Do you feel like you finally made it now having a new chair?
What's crazy is the biggest marker, it's gonna sound a little strange, but it's when I got a new computer more than anything else.
That's not strange.
It's like the biggest piece, you know, and it's not necessarily conducive for everything else. When I was able to buy my own computer after running on like a hunk of junk, it happened like midway through Mythos. I was filming live streams on low frame rate that would glitch out quite often. I would be like dropping frames. Like often I was running without shaders. And at a certain point, like a couple hundred episodes into Mythos, I got a new computer and I was able to have my hands on something more modern. Allotted a lot more freedom that I didn't have for years before that point. And I was able to get that computer because of the success I was getting on Twitch at the time, which mind you wasn't even a lot. I was saving up for months. It was a complete game changer. It was the first example of what my success could inevitably do for me. Felt like it was investing in my future, that I was putting that money back into myself and I was betting on myself to succeed. And so far it's worked out.
Yeah, so far it's worked out. It's not like you have 100,000 subscribers now.
Yeah, definitely couldn't have ever expected that when I was first starting out.
Truly a joy to see. Like, honestly, like, I'd love to see it as a fan of just being like, oh, you're so cool. I guess a lot of fans talk about how much they love your series, and like especially the Mythos with being almost 300 episodes. With having such a cult following around it, what was it like wanting to switch from Mythos to Skyline or just more cinematic roleplays?
I saw the limitations. Once you get like 200 something episodes deep with 2+ hour VODs each time, it kind of becomes hard to stomach and access as a new viewer as you go, what? I have to watch months worth of footage. I pretty much have to watch the one piece of Minecraft roleplays to be able to get into this channel. And I felt like that was going to be a barrier that would stop people. The actual world of Mythos, I was quite attached to at the time, but I saw the flaws in it. Within the story, random lore that didn't really feel like conducive to the overarching plot, a lot of things that were unclear. And I wondered for a while, and I was thinking of what if I took this world setting and I made it more shonen, proper like adventure anime reminiscent of like Black Clover or Bleach or like a lot of those series that a lot of younger kids grew up on, condense the plot down way more to be a little bit more consumable. At the time, I only knew how to do this through a live stream format. It had not crossed my mind on how I could possibly write a story within short episodic episodes. That's just something I just learned over the years through writing. Skyline was my attempt at trying to make a more condensed, linear story.
You mentioned in a video that Freakshow was actually your dream series. Could you tell us more about that?
When I was in college, I would say this is a couple years into my content creation journey. At the timeline of this, we were probably working on Echoes of Arcadia. I took a class in college, and mind you, I was majoring in English, but I didn't really prioritize college or care too much for college. I did enough that I was consistently getting B's and A's in my classes. I was BSing my way through most of my assignments. Most of your assignments are essays. As long as you just write something largely competent, you get at least a B. That was my experience. I put very minimal effort into most of my classes in college, but one I did take, and it was to try to bolster my own writing ability, was a creative writing class. First time that I had properly taken a class that was structured in a peer review format, and the first time that I'd really had proper peer reviews outside of friends just telling me, oh, this looks good. I was getting critical feedback on the things that I was writing in this class. They would sit down for an hour and say, okay, now we're going to talk about this student's work. Everyone was solely focused on your piece and picking it apart and talking about it. And that was really cool. First short story I made for that class was something that was actually used in Mythos. That was pretty much a fairy tale, like storybook retelling of the Twilight arc. They were all very interested in it and thought it was a very pretty setting and that they would read a fairy tale book like that. And I was, that's interesting. So when it came down to the second time in that semester where we were able to write a short story, I was out of idea. I spent one night, I want to say enough time that the sun went down and it was dark, sitting by a fountain trying to think in the middle of my campus. Came up with this story that I was somewhat attached to, that I kind of convinced myself to like, that was mainly just focused on just two characters meeting and having a chance conversation and realizing that they were more alike than they realized. They could make improvements on each other's lives by just talking. It sounded cooler in my head back then. Anyway.
What? No, it does sound cool. What do you mean?
It never mattered because whenever I stood up and I started walking back towards my dorm, by the way, it was due the next day. I only do things when they're immediately due the next day.
That's so real. Yeah, you work better under pressure.
I was heading back and I was like, okay, time to write my 15-page short story for this. Put in my headphones and I'm listening to music. Radio just goes through and it picks a song that I hadn't listened to before, but it was a song called I'm Wasted by a band called Ghost Town, and they make, I want to say, like Halloween themed music. But I heard this song, I immediately was struck with inspiration, where I was seeing this vision for a series. I had these flashes of main character that was being given a love potion by someone else, and then that was causing them to develop like feelings, and then I started spiraling. I was like, oh my god, okay, so like, wait, how did they get this like love potion? Like, why is it made? Oh, they get it from a witch. Okay, why is there a witch? How do I make it like humane? design? How do I add like depth? Okay, what if the main character was like a cold, unfeeling monster, and then they drinking potions, and it wasn't just a love potion, there were other potions, and it was making them feel emotions for the first time. Rapidly expanded into becoming Freakshow, a school for monsters to be rehabilitated into acting more human. The first time I wrote it, I went over 3 pages, and I didn't care. I took the grade hit because I was more about the passion rather than the restrictions of the assignment. So even though I got punished for writing more, because that meant that my peers had to read more, I didn't care. And I came into my class with my first draft of the story, and I had glowing responses. People fawning over how creative the setting is, and how well written it was, and how appealing the characters were, and how it borrowed so heavily from supernatural mythos. At the end of the semester, when I did my final revision, I had to pick one of my short stories to do it, and I did it with Freakshow. The final product ended up being like 24 pages. I expanded that short story even more. It turned out incredible. My review that I got from my professor at the end was a specific note where they told me, like, this cannot stay a short story. You need to make this bigger. They suggested a novel. I obviously
You were like, who reads?
Yeah. When I was thinking of a next project to work on at some point, I want to say it was either around Echoes or it was around Wishbrook, I originally thought I could do Freakshow. I wanted to, but at the time I didn't have the resources to instruct a completely unique school and then make all of the models that I would need for all of like the different monsters to be able to portray them and everything. And I had just a whole lot of restraints that made it seem like it wasn't really something I could accomplish in Minecraft. I couldn't enact my vision that I had for the short story. Started working on Wishbrook Resort, where we started doing our own custom models, like with cat ears and tails. I was winding down and I was stalling on my channel, and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? I was taking inventory. I found Freakshow again, and I started thinking about the resources that I now had access to and the things that I had learned over the course of working on my other series. And I was like, is this possible? Initially, I planned on using custom NPCs for dialogue, believe it or not, but I hated it so much, I found a different way of going at it. After agonizing for a long time, I was like, oh my god, wait, it's possible. And it turned out very well, and I am very proud of it. And being able to put that out there and seeing the fan response, it showed me that I really was sitting on something special for a long time.
Did you ever expect Freakshow to reach the level of popularity it has? Because you always got good reviews, and it seems like everyone was giving it such praise even before it was a show.
Didn't think it would do bad, but I was completely blindsided by the degree of which it did well. It completely caught me off guard. Wishbrook, like 2 months later, at that point in time, had like 40k on its first episode, which compared to Echoes, which had like approaching like 100k at the time, and Skyline, which had broke 100k within like the first month, it felt like I was going down rather than going up, especially as I felt like my quality was improving. And so seeing Freakshow perform as well as it did and reaching a very wide audience was really satisfying to see. The first series that I was putting a lot of thought into of how I would have it outreach and what about it would be appealing to a wider audience. The sheer amount of new viewers that came from the series was very overwhelming initially. I'm super happy with how successful it was, but I can't say I put it out and I was like, oh yeah, this one's gonna get me a crap ton. I would have been blown away if it broke 100k within a month.
I mean, you've only been getting better. I think it's completely fair that eventually you were gonna get your giant moment of like, oh yeah, it's all coming together.
Oh yeah, I mean, right before Freakshow came out, our team was probably at its smallest. I've mentioned this in live streams, but a lot of the set pieces, Rev's house, the main hallway of the school, the main set pieces of the school, even the school's like overarching like palette and everything, I did myself in my own time, building, writing, and filming entirely solo. It wasn't until like we started getting to like right before we were about to put it out that we onboarded a couple more builders and much more help coming in. And then with subsequent episodes, we were bringing in more and more people because we were gaining the traction, and therefore we're gaining like applications and the assistance that we needed.
Is that how we got from Freakshow to Deltarune? Because that came out so quick after Freakshow ended with barely any break.
Oh yeah, we were working on Freakshow. We're approaching the tail end. I started thinking of, okay, let me look towards the future now that I'm growing this size and I know people are going to always want more. How do I start planning out? Deltarune was a game I've always idolized and something I wanted to see adapted into a series. And I knew I would have to be the person to do it, otherwise it wouldn't happen. And so when I was coming down and I was like, well, Freakshow season 1 ends, what am I going to follow up with afterwards? Because I need another thing to keep it moving. Deltarune is feasible. Requires a lot more of a team than what we had initially and like before going to Freakshow and everything. But by the time we were coming out the end of it, I was like, we have the team size. We have builders that we need. We have the modelers that we need. We have all of the resources that could potentially be able to not make this insanely burdensome for like one person in particular. Feels realistic. This is probably going to be our highest like production. Like there's so many models and so many pieces that go into Deltarune. It was another test of like, how far can we go?
What can you tell us about Deltarune? Is it going to be any different? Is there going to be something new that you're looking forward to?
Deltarune is, I think, a very complex story with a lot of deeper nuance that currently, as if like when you just play the game casually, there is a great deal of depth to Chris's character that you really see in a lot of later chapters in chapter 3 and 4. And there is a great deal of subtlety in the story and a lot of things that exist only outside of the story through like Bampton sweepstakes or other like hidden lore pieces. I figured a great opportunity for this series is to offer some of these theories and what is considered like more niche knowledge that you wouldn't be able to find unless you were constantly studying the series to the audience in a very narrative way. A lot of original Deltarune toys around with the idea of it being a 2D RPG game that you as the player are engaging with and are a character in itself. One of the things that I thought would be interesting is to approach it within more of a 3D RPG angle where it plays out more like it's a modern RPG rather than an old school RPG. Instead of seeing it exactly from the player's perspective, what if we saw it from Chris's? Player is now this enigma, this mysterious character that we can't see or hear in the same way of when we normally play the game, we can't see or hear Chris. It's taking these pre-existing ideas, expanding them, making them look beautiful, and reimagining what they would look like in 3D space, taking Castletown and expanding it to be an actual proper Castletown rather than the one tile location that it is in the game, but then also taking the story that's there and elevating it. Chapter 1 is a great opportunity for this to happen because this is my personal opinion. When it comes to narrative, chapter 1 is kind of the weakest out of all the Deltarune chapters. You learn the least about the world, you engage with the least amount of characters. A lot of it is just really focused on exactly one plot point, and that plot point's in regards to Susie. You don't really get anything beyond that. I'm taking this opportunity to create an actual, what I would imagine if Toby were to reapproach the chapter now with the resources that he does have of his team, how he would possibly approach it with weaving in more characters, weaving in more of that narrative. I'm putting my own unique spin and adding in a lot of depth and nuance and character that isn't there in just the base original game. And I think it makes for a very fresh, unique experience for both a new viewer and a longtime Deltarune fan.
I really want to bounce off that. You're talking about wanting to expand on everything. Is there anything that you really want to create now having all these resources you do today?
Yes, but unlike a lot of other creators, I'm very tight-lipped. I like holding my cards all the way to my chest up until like the microsecond I'm about to drop something. But it is part of my plan. There is something that I've thought about that in the past, I would say I approached the vision of this, but I did it poorly because of the resources at my time. But with the resources I have now, I see how I'd approach it currently, and I think it would be one of the coolest things in the modern Minecraft roleplay spheres yet. I have already started putting the pieces in motion for that. As for what it is, I can't say. That's the unfortunate fact of the matter.
You can't hype it up and then be like, I can't say it.
I can't say. If I do, the haters will try to sabotage me. You know how it is.
Of course.
But it's definitely this year, I think. As for when this year, I don't know, but I see it happening this year. And I would say about as excited I was for Freakshow. I think it's going to be another one of those magnum opuses for my channel.
I like your funny words, Magic Man. Good job. We're all expecting the Mona Lisa now. Since we've already talked about the next big thing, that obviously means you will bring back the old stuff, right? Right? Because like in an old video you did like 7 months ago, I'm just gonna call you out right now, I'm sorry. But you mentioned that some shows would still continue, and that Wishbrook, being one of them, would have 10 more episodes planned. But there hasn't been an episode since. What's up with that, Rexxipher?
Yeah, so in the original planning for Wishbrook, it tended to be 15 episodes in total. Looking back at the document, I was a bit disappointed with how those episodes were panning out, especially with how I've seen Freakshow work and what made Freakshow work. That isn't to say I'm forgetting Wishbrook or discarding it completely. A lot of like the fan response to Wishbrook has been fawning over it after they found Freakshow. To me, what that tells me is that Wishbrook is a series that has a lot of potential, but doesn't appeal to a wider audience unless they are given reason to watch it. If I were to put out an episode 6 just today, just flat out like necro drop it, out of nowhere, it would access my inbuilt fans. It wouldn't access a wider audience. And as unfortunate as it is, Wishbrook is not my most popular series. It is unfortunately quite far from it. I would expect it to net less views. I would put it on par very similarly to being the exact same workload as Deltarune. The difference being Deltarune is new and it has an IP attached and it's following Freakshow and has a bunch of things in its favor, allowing it to perform well. Wishbrook episode 6 hypothetically doesn't have it. Now, I have plans for Wishbrook.
Let's go.
As for what those plans are, I will refuse to say.
Of course.
If I give all my cards, if I let them play from my chest, I will hear about it from now until forever. I already know it's going to take me months to get to. I would rather them be asking me if I'm ever going to do something than to be demanding it every day up until when I can finally do it.
Yeah, I'm a prime example of that.
Yeah, I mean, the worst could happen, right? Prefer to avoid disappointment as much as I can.
Yeah, especially since you're only just the one person, like obviously you have a whole team, but like it mainly is still just you, right?
Yeah, and diverting all that resources like to a frankly very new team that's still largely untrained and is very volunteer. It's a little bit too much of a burden to expect them to help animate an entire episode of Echoes within even a month.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I do remember you saying in a live stream and stuff that as long as us fans show our support, you will continue to make more of that, right?
Yes, this is true.
Alright, well, if you're like me, then make sure to go and show some support so Mr. Rexxipher can hopefully make something out of it.
I mean, Freakshow is the best series on my channel, but if someone likes something so much, I like leaving my things open so that they can be revisited.
Oh my gosh. Is that a secret teaser?
Who knows? Not me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you're writing it.
I shake a magic 8-ball every day and it tells me what I'm doing in regards to everything. I go, is there going to be a season 2? And it says, outcome unlikely. And I'm like, I guess they're waiting another week for me to shake this thing again.
You should probably go and grab it then, because my last question is, what's the future looking like? Are you looking forward to it? Are you dreading what's to come? Or are you excited at all?
We had a rough start this year, at least I did, with a lot of struggles that were immediate roadblocks over the course of the first month that slowed me down in my plans immensely. But even though with that, we're rapidly making a comeback, I declared on a live stream that this would be the year of Rexxipher. I still think that's the case. I am still very confident. I know that there's at least 2 things that are going to come out this year that are going to really blow everyone away, and I cannot wait for those 2 things to come out.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here and answering my questions. It was awesome to have you and to hear your backstory. Is there anything else you want to say before we end this?
Subscribe to Rexxipher.
Subscribe to Rexxipher. All right, thank you so much, man. Have a good day.
Thank you for having me. Take care.